Hi, folks. Welcome to What's Trans or Gay in PA for June 16th, 2021. We share news stories and events that impact the LGBTQ plus community across Pennsylvania, from Philadelphia to Erie and all points in between. Today's show is brought to you by the YouTube program Powered by Rainbows, starring Matt Haslam, provider of LGBTQ plus education for virtual classrooms in Pennsylvania and around the world. And by Aura Jewelry by Mary Moore, maker of fine quality, reasonably priced necklaces and other items. Check out her Etsy page for details. Today's show is also brought to you by One Hope Wines. Their award-winning wines are made by some of the most acclaimed winemakers in the industry, blending traditional winemaking methods with modern techniques. Each exquisite bottle becomes a catalyst for change. Our top news story today. U.S. Senator Bob Casey announced today that he and Rhode Island State Representative David Cicilline are introducing the Disarm Hate Act. The legislation would prohibit individuals convicted of violent misdemeanor hate crimes from purchasing or possessing firearms. Senator Casey commented, "This past weekend, we honored the 49 people murdered at Pulse during a brutal attack on LGBTQ plus people, one of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. Tomorrow, we will mark the 6th anniversary of the Charleston massacre and remember the 9 African Americans murdered by a white extremist at Mother Emanuel. In 2018, the congregants at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh were attacked by an anti-Semitic shooter, and 11 people lost their lives. Under federal law, individuals convicted of felonies, including hate crimes, are prohibited from possessing guns. However, very few states ban individuals with misdemeanor level hate crimes on their criminal record to purchase guns. The Disarm Hate Act would close this loophole and prohibit the sale of firearms to individuals who have been convicted of threatening with a deadly weapon or assaulting someone on the basis of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. We want to know what you think. Drop a comment below to let us know whether you support the Disarm Hate Act. We'll read some of your comments on our show on Thursday. In other news, a group of Republican state lawmakers are pushing a bill that would ban transgender girls from playing on interscholastic girls' sports teams. Their move to promote this bill comes one day after Representatives Sims, Kenyatta, and Benham held a press conference with Governor Wolf calling for passage of the Fairness Act, which has been introduced numerous times but never taken up for a floor vote on the bill. The Fairness Act would prohibit discrimination based on sexual identity, sexual orientation, and gender identity for all housing, credit, education, and public accommodations. The anti-transgender measure, even its name, is almost identical to bills from other states, most recently in Florida, where Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law what is called the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. His action on the first day of Pride Month outraged critics, including the board of directors for the Pennsylvania Equality Project. It was one of an unprecedented number of anti-transgender bills that have been rolled out in Republican-led state houses. At least 69 bills have been introduced that would prohibit transgender high schoolers, and in some cases college students, from participating in interscholastic sports. Conservative lawmakers in Pennsylvania and elsewhere argue that proposals, such as the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, would actually protect gender equality and equity in sports, and ensure a level playing field for girls and women. The lawmakers who are sponsoring the Pennsylvania bill, all of them women, argue that transgender females have an inherent physical advantage over cisgender girls. They claim that allowing them to play on girls' sports teams would put all athletes at a disadvantage and jeopardize the gains made over the years under federal law guaranteeing equality for women in education. They say their proposed measure is a direct response to the Biden administration's executive order in January, requiring that transgender school athletes be permitted to compete on teams that align with their gender identities. Representative Valerie Gatos, a former Division III lacrosse player and one of the sponsors of the bill, claimed, quote, "No matter how many hormones you take, physiologically, a male is going to have an advantage," end quote. Representative Gatos went on to say there is science. Physicians will say that no matter how many years of hormones, the physiology of a male body will be male. There are certain traits that remain no matter how many years of hormone therapy. The transgender community and its advocates scoff at the reference to science. Little scientific research has been done on this topic, they argue. The National LGBTQ Task Force spokeswoman, Kathy Renna, noted that the bulk of the arguments from people opposed to transgender sports participation rely on scientific citations, even though little exists. We will continue to monitor the progress of the bill as it works its way through the General Assembly. And finally, in the news, crimes against members of the LGBTQ community often go unreported, and most, no matter the motive, aren't considered hate crimes under Pennsylvania state law. But that doesn't mean these crime victims don't exist or need services. Consider recent crimes in Philadelphia, including the stabbing of a transgender woman on March 20th, the fatal shooting of Tracy Mia Green in September, and the brutal murder of 27-year-old Dominic Remy Fells. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, in an effort to address this community and its victims, announced the formation of an anti-LGBTQ plus crime tracker and a companion LGBTQ plus advisory committee. The tracker scours police reports on file for any of 50 keywords or phrases associated with the local LGBTQ plus community, which will be added to an internal spreadsheet. From there, the district attorney's office will work to verify if the case involves LGBTQ plus individuals, and then reach out to provide additional supports and services. Gay, trans, queer, and non-binary people for too long have been marginalized by our system and society. I want these community members to know that you are not alone, according to Krasner. Adding what state lawmakers said, they need to create equitable state legislation. Krasner went on to say, my administration continues to improve services for LGBTQ plus communities, as well as strengthen lines of dialogue with them. And the formation of our LGBTQ plus advisory committee is an important development in this mission. Krasner's announcement not only brought to the forefront crimes committed against LGBTQ plus community members that they often go unreported for a variety of reasons, but also raised the question of whether such a tracker is needed in Bucks County. County District Attorney Matt Weintraub said that while no such tracker exists here, he would need to investigate and implement a version of it if it's proven to be effective. Weintraub said he always encourages the LGBTQ plus community to report crimes, although he is also aware that there is hesitancy. I know that the LGBTQ community feels chilled sometimes due to a perceived lack of support, according to Weintraub. He went on to say, but what I will say in the affirmative is that I have a great opinion and open relationship with the LGBTQ plus community. I am an ally. In lieu of having a tracker, Weintraub said he relies on his relationship with pro-LGBTQ plus organizations such as the Rainbow Room in Doylestown and the Peace Center in Langhorne. And he stressed members of the LGBTQ plus community are encouraged to contact these groups as well if they are unsure of contacting the district attorney's office or other law enforcement directly. We would strongly encourage students who feel the same way as if they've been attacked by the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity at Bucknell University, go to your local district attorney's office. If you don't feel you're getting any sort of response that fits what you're looking for in terms of the crimes committed, then by all means, file a complaint with the Pennsylvania State Attorney General's office. Which brings us to this point. On the state level, Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro's office enforces 2 state laws related to hate crime, although neither directly deal with hate crimes against the LGBTQ plus community. Pennsylvania's ethnic intimidation statute, which is commonly referred to as hate crime, is covered by the state's crime code. When a person commits certain criminal offenses, and the crime is motivated in whole or in part by malicious intent toward the race, color, religion, or national origin of another person, it is a separate criminal offense in violation of the statute. However, sexual orientation and gender identity are not covered by this statute. The Pennsylvania Human Relations Act and the Pennsylvania Fair Education Opportunities Act prohibit discrimination in access to employment, public accommodations, as well as housing, commercial property, and related lending based on sex, among other grounds. This prohibits sex discrimination in post-secondary education. The Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission has a non-binding guidance statement that will accept, investigate, and adjudicate complaints of discrimination based on sexual orientation, transgender identity, gender transition, gender identity, and gender expression as complaints of sex discrimination. Now it's time for the rundown. The LGBT Center of Greater Reading is having a Pride Pour painting party on June 26th, starting at 6:30 p.m. An RSVP is required and sign up is available on Eventbrite. Admission is $20. For details, call 484-513-3170. That number again is area code 484-513-3170. Or go to LGBT Center of Reading Front Desk. That's all one word, LGBT Center of Reading Front Desk at gmail.com. And finally, the city of Lebanon, PA, is set to hold its first ever LGBTQ Pride event on June 26th. The event intends to highlight the community's visibility and show that the city has kept up with prevailing national cultural trends. The event, situated at 39 South 8th Street, begins at 11 a.m. and has 4 major components: a potluck, a dance party, a DJ scheduled for 3 hours between 1 and 4 p.m., and finally, a drag show with about 10 or 11 performers set to begin at 7 p.m. with a $10 charge. Aside from the show, all of the other events are free to attend. Be sure to tune in on Sunday, June 20th at 1 p.m. to our YouTube show, Pep Talks Uncut. Our special guest this week is Representative Mike Schlossberg of Allentown. If you have news or events that you would like us to mention on our show, send story ideas to info@paequality.com. For events, please allow up to 1 week prior to the event for us to include it on the program. Thanks for watching today. If you like today's show, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Tune in again tomorrow when we will have another edition of What's Trans or Gay in PA. What's Gay in PA is a production of the Pennsylvania Equality Project, all rights reserved.